Before I begin, let me say this. I don't know if the Kansas City Chiefs will win the Super Bowl or let alone beat the Tennessee Titans this weekend. However, what they did last week is unheard of. They were down 24 to nothing. Okay? Down 24 points. Final score, Chiefs 51, Titans 31. So they come back and win by 20. That's a 44-point swing. That's unheard of. Now, there have been bigger deficits in professional football where the team facing the deficit came back and won. Don't get me wrong. But when teams do that, when they come back, they win on the last second field goal or touchdown or what have you. The Chiefs came back and won by 20 after being down by 24. I don't think people understand what they witnessed. Anyway, Julian Williams, 27 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 16 knockouts, defends his World Boxing Association, his International Boxing Federation, and his International Boxing Organization World Super Welterweight or Junior Middleweight titles this Saturday night against JEISON Rosario. 19 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 13 knockouts. This bout takes place on Saturday night, January 18th, live on Fox from Temple University's Liacouras Center. The televised portion of the main fight card begins at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Okay, that's when Fox airs. There are a couple of undercard bouts that will air on Fox Sports 1 at 6:30 p.m. So make sure you check those out. All right. The last time we saw Williams, he faced former unified champion or unified champion at the time, Swift Jared Hurd in that was in Fairfax, Virginia. Williams was a big underdog and counted out by most. If you've been following us, you know we said from day one he beat Hurd and how Hurd was tailor-made for this kid. And Julian made us look good that night as he won a decision in a brutal fight with Hurd. Brutal fight. When we covered Julian inside of his locker room after the victory, we saw there was a woman in there, and she was from VADA. Julian's team, not Julian himself, he just fights, but his team, they demand VADA testing, and rightfully so. And so there was a cup of blood next to Julian as we were just taping whatever we were taping at the time. And me and my colleague looked at Robert Uzel. We looked at the blood, and we were like, man, his blood looks kind of thin. And then we saw the VADA lady take take the syringe and take blood from his arm. And I'm like, he's giving more blood. And then when we saw that blood, we were like, okay, that looks normal. And then we realized what was going on. The thin blood in the cup was actually urine. So Julian had urine in his, Julian had blood in his urine. So trust me when I tell you, it was a brutal fight. So Julian, he made us look good. And our message after that fight and after the first fight between Tony Harrison and Jermell Charlo was shared by Williams as well as Harrison. Boxing fans, and especially boxing media, shame on you, need to stop counting guys out after a loss. I'll also add this, because people usually abandon guys after they lose their 0 or their O. But taking it a step, I'm going to take it a step further. What if a guy loses twice or 3 times? We count guys like that out also. And then they become champions and run off like 5, 6 title defenses. So we got to stop it. We know who's the major blame for that. And for guys thinking they need to protect their O. No, they don't. So 2019 was a year of redemption for Williams and Harrison. And now here we are for Williams, 8 months later, as he's set for his first title defense. So how good is Julian Williams? I have to be honest. I don't know. He looked strong against Hurd, okay? He has what appears to be good technique. Very good fighter on the inside. He can get you on the inside for sure. It's like poetry in motion. He has a solid jab, even though I think he still tips it off a bit. We talked about that in the video after he lost to Young Maul, okay? After he lost to Jermell Charlo. But his jab is quick and it can bust you up. I like his left hook when he keeps it quick and short. He punches in combination. And if he can go the full 12 with Hurd leaning on him and punching like he was, I won't question his durability because Hurd is a beast in there. Williams was patient in the Hurd fight. He didn't rush it, and he didn't try to take something that wasn't there. On the flip side, and here's where that fine line is. Everyone jumped on the Williams bandwagon when he beat Hurd. Oh, Julian is this or Julian was that. But where was that talk prior to the Hurd fight? We had it here at the Fight Journal Boxing and at thefightjournal.com. And the media, let me tell you something. I went to the final press conference for the Hurd versus Williams fight, which will now be referred to as the Williams versus Hurd fight. Went to the final press conference in a small room at a hotel, and nobody, I mean nobody, went to interview Williams. But the Fight Journal Boxing did. And while, at least when I was there, while all the media ran toward Hurd, I went to talk to Williams, and I saw something in his eyes. And I'm going to leave a video below, and I just want you to just go to where I tell you to go, okay? During the press conference, you see Williams at the table. Look my way. He'll look right at the camera. We had an angle where we were to the right of Williams, or to his left looking at us, but we were to his right from our angle. Okay? And during the press conference, you'll see Williams at the table look my way. And I nodded my head up and down like 3 times. And he did the same thing. And I told the guy next to me, I said, he's ready. So you can see it on the video below. Go to the 12-minute, 27-second mark or so at the video. And Julian's kind of just sitting there right before 12:27. And then he looks my direction. And I nodded my head, which would have been more like at maybe 12:25 or 12:26. And he looked and he nodded his head right back. I said, yeah, it's on. It's on now, baby. It's on. I'm telling you. He may never remember that. I might bring it up. If I do, it may not be on camera, or it may be on camera. But that's when I said, okay, old boy is he coming to party. And he did. But just as I told everyone to stop judging Julian Williams on one fight where he got knocked out by Jamal Charlo, I'm also warning people now not to just look at Hurd and how Williams handled him and then all of a sudden put Julian Williams on Mount Rushmore. And listen, Julian's my guy. I mean, I send direct messages with him back and forth on Twitter. I text and I talk to his trainer, Steven, from time to time. Okay? But let's look at Julian's trail after the Charlo fight and leading up to Hurd. Okay? Let's let this... people overjudged him when he lost, and now people are kind of overjudging him after a big win. Let's let this kid's career play out. But let's just take a look. And this is why I say, for those who were critical of him before Charlo, after the Charlo fight and before Hurd, okay, fine. But those who are like putting him too high, let's look at what happened after Charlo, but before Hurd, okay? Leading up to the Hurd fight. So, first he took on Joshua Conley, who was 14-1-1. And Conley didn't really have anyone of note on his record. But he hadn't been stopped at all. Okay. There are 3 problems I had with Conley. I didn't have a problem with Williams fighting a comeback fight against Conley because Conley's durable. He hasn't been stopped, even though his competition wasn't the greatest. I think it was just good. It was an on-time opponent. But 3 things I had. 3 problems. However, so it was, I didn't have a problem with Williams fighting him. But let's see what Conley did before he fought Williams, okay? He had a draw with a guy who was 4 wins and 7 losses, okay? This was right before Williams. Then he won a unanimous decision in a 4-rounder. He won another unanimous decision in a 6-rounder. He won another unanimous decision in a 6-rounder. Okay. So the 4-rounder was with a guy who was 5-7-4. Okay. And then he had another 4-rounder, and there was a guy who was 5-0, and he's currently 10-3. Not bad, but he's 5-3 since fighting Conley. So he's 10-3, but he's 5-3 since fighting Conley. Conley's second 6-rounder, unanimous decision, was a guy who was 8 wins, 11 losses, and 4 draws. And then he won an 8-rounder against a guy who was 8-2 and who is now 8-4. Then he stepped up and lost to a 13-1 guy who's now 12-2. Okay, not bad, but nothing to gloat about, as no victory of note is on his ledger. Then Conley fought a 6-rounder against a guy, guess what? Making his pro debut. So he got 2 TKO victories. One in an 8-rounder against a guy who was 15-8 and who's now 18-16. And then the final guy he fought before Williams was 2 wins and 3 losses. And that was a 6-rounder. Then he got the call to fight Julian. But the call came when Conley was out of the ring for 1 year and 3 months. Now, once again, I'm not mad at Team Williams for picking Conley. But he was coming off a loss in a 6-month layoff. I'm not mad at Conley for accepting the assignment. I'm merely presenting facts. Okay? Let's move on. Next, Williams took on Ishe Smith, a defensive wizard. Okay? Ishe was there as a guy who wanted to win, but he's a tough puzzle to figure out. And it almost backfired, as many thought the fight was too close for comfort. Very close fight. But I thought Julian got the nod. I don't have the best analogy, but picture Deontay Wilder fighting Tyson Fury, right? And Wilder is staying on the back foot and asking Fury to come in. So Fury's coming forward. Wilder's just going to kind of sit on the back foot. It doesn't work for either guy. If you take a look at the Otto Wallin fight, as Fury tried to come forward at times against the guy who wanted to counter, the fight was bad. And then it was also closer than the cards indicated. I don't care what anybody says. Because Ishe doesn't bring much offense and takes extreme pride in defense, the styles just didn't mesh between Ishe and Julian. So the fight just was not pleasing to the eyes. It was close. And nevertheless, Williams passed the test there. Let's move on. Then came Nathaniel Gallimore. Nate the Great. Good test. Gallimore can fight. And Nathaniel's been in there with Patrick Teixeira, Erickson Lubin, Justin DeLoach, and guess who else? JEISON Rosario, Saturday night's opponent. This was a decent fight. Julian, once again, he won a majority decision. But this time, I think the fight was more unanimous than a majority or split decision. It's funny. After the media, the way the world works is whenever somebody says something that sounds good, people repeat it because it sounds good, and half the time people don't know what they're talking about. But so one thing people were saying about Williams was he was susceptible to the uppercut. Young Maul caught him with an uppercut, a big one. And But I asked him, well, can you point to some other occasions where he's like susceptible to that shot? People get quiet. I'll have to get back to you. Whatever. So based on one punch in one big fight, he's susceptible to the uppercut. Well, I got news for you because most people didn't pay attention. Nate Gallimore, Nate the Great, Nathaniel Gallimore threw at least 20 uppercuts in the fight against Julian Williams. And Williams blocked or slipped just about all of them. It was more poetry. I mean, just poetry in motion, man. Beautiful to watch. And to me, that showed pure growth for him as a fighter and growth for his trainer as a trainer. Let's move on. After beating Gallimore, there was Francisco Javier Castro. And Castro, over the past few years, has fought at super lightweight or junior middleweight, welterweight, and super welterweight or junior middleweight. So Castro was brought in as a tune-up, and I have to believe Team Williams at that point kind of knew with a victory they'd get a title shot. Castro was a respectable 28 wins, 8 losses with 23 knockouts. He's been in there with Hugo Centeno Jr., Joaquim Alcine, Freddie Hernandez, Antonio Diaz, Mike Dallas Jr., and everybody's favorite fighter, Errol Spence Jr. In this fight, Williams didn't mess around with him, and he got him out in 2 rounds. Now, Castro has since lost all 4 of his fights after fighting Williams. And then Williams fought Hurd next, and we know how that turned out. Let's move on. So, while everyone had their mind made up about Williams after losing to Charlo, now, once again, based on those 4 fights I discussed and talked about levels of competition and records and so on and so forth, let's just hold off on making Julian an all-time great. Let's let the young man's career progress. Come see me in 6 more fights or so. Let's reevaluate him. Let's just evaluate him after some title defenses, okay? So, what do we know about JEISON Rosario? And JEISON is spelled Jeison, Rosario, okay? Well, we know he can punch. His power is decent. In his fight with Gallimore, his 1 loss, he had Nathaniel hurt on a few occasions in that fight, but he just couldn't close him out. There's no shame in that. Gallimore has been hurt in numerous fights, but no one has been able to stop Gallimore. And then Gallimore hurt Rosario with what appeared to be an equilibrium shot, and I just don't think Rosario ever got his legs back. So there's your common opponent, Gallimore. Williams won a majority decision, and Gallimore stopped Rosario in a fight where it was action. I mean, Gallimore is rarely in a boring fight, none that I've seen. So Rosario, he likes to wing punches when he gets off, whether it be to the upper body or lower body. He's good offensively, but just a little bit loose with his offensive technique. And I don't think, well, we'll see if it's something that they fixed. I think he could be a better fighter if he was more tight with his attack. And now he's only 24. And this fight can be as much a learning experience for him as much as it's the big shot he's worked for his entire career. Like this is what he's worked for. So he's getting it at 24 years old. Outside of Gallimore, Rosario's been in there with Jamonte Clark, Justin DeLoach, and Jorge Cota. And that's not bad for this point in his career. Clark, DeLoach, and Cota, that's not bad. And that now Williams and in Gallimore. So for a guy who's 24, he's been in there with some guys who can fight. But now he's in the big leagues. And the question is, are you ready, Jason? That's the question. So Williams doesn't think Rosario will be much of a problem at all. He's focused, and he doesn't anticipate a problem. And although boxing isn't triangular, we'll say it once again, Williams beat Gallimore, who stopped Rosario. This is not only the home fight, but the home title defense Williams deserves. But you know something, I have this strange feeling that Julian would much rather fight on the road or at a neutral venue than he would Philadelphia. As much as he's Philly, believe me. But as much as he's Philly, I just get a sense that it's like the responsibilities of being a champion and being at home add some layers that he would rather say, you know what? If I'm on the road, I wouldn't have to deal with any of this stuff. And I'm going to try to catch up to Julian for that. Or maybe he'll answer it before I get to him. But it just seems Julian's a different kind of cat, in my opinion. And I could be wrong, but I'm going to attempt to find out. I like Williams in this fight. Let's hold off and let his career unfold before we talk about how good or great or decent he is. Like I said, while everyone overjudged him and wrote him off after one loss, I encourage them not to overvalue him after one win. Let the career play out a bit. Hopefully he wins, and maybe we get a Jermell Charlo unification or an Erislandy Lara for kind of a unification, because all of that super champion and regular BS is crazy. Same for the WBC and that franchise bull. So anyway, I believe, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the WBO belt is about to be vacant. If not, or did Patrick Teixeira win it when he beat what's my man name? Adamas. I gotta look that one up because I remember seeing the word that was for an interim title. But does he graduate to the real champion since Jaime Munguia moved up? I'll let you guys tell me. I'm done with guessing. Let's move on. There are 14, count them, 14 fights scheduled for the card this Saturday as of the posting of this video. This is boxing, so I'm sure something will change. So we got White Magic on the card. Vito Mielnicki Jr. There's a lot of hype behind this Jersey kid. I believe he's 17 or 18 years old. It's a good fight for the simple fact that you want tri-state guys there to help sell tickets, and this kid has a lot of fights, a lot of fans, fight fans who'll come. He's 3-0 with 3 knockouts. They've already put him on Mount Rushmore. So let's just hold off, guys. Come on. So that's a good move. And also Dylan the Real Deal Price, who fights out of Sicklerville, New Jersey, not far from Philadelphia. Dylan has a decent following also, so it's good that they added him to the card. Dylan's 10-0, 7 knockouts, with a very questionable no decision in a Vegas fight that was suspect, to say the least. But I won't get into it. Louis Del Valle is on the card. He's 25 wins, 3 losses. He lost to my main man, Vic Darchinyan, back in 2012. And also, he lost a step-up fight in 2016 to Diego De La Hoya. So, he's on the card. Then we got the Cornflake. My man, Thomas Cornflake Lamanna. He's on the card. Once again, that's a good move by the matchmaker. Cornflake is from South Jersey, across the bridge, and not far from Philadelphia. He has a fantastic local following, so that's some tickets sold for sure. And he takes on the aforementioned Jorge Cota in what I expect to be an action fight as long as it goes. It may go the distance, or we could see a stoppage, but I expect action in this one. If it happens, there are 14 cards at the time of me, 14 bouts. I wouldn't be surprised if it wound up being 7 or if it wound up being 15. Who knows? Also on the card is the knockout kid, Joey Spencer. He's a 19-year-old prospect, and he's a knockout with the ladies too, as he has the look they like. He's 9-0 with 7 knockouts. And he takes on Eric Spring, a Reading, Pennsylvania kid who's 13 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws, with only 1 knockout, which was back in his 3rd fight. I'd like to see Joey get slightly better opposition after this one. One of those guys who may not win, but is durable and ultra tough to knock out, which is who he's facing. Spencer fights a lot of times with the I'm sorry. What I'm saying is I'd like to see Spencer fight one of those tough to knock out guys. Like Joseph Adorno, who had to settle for a draw last weekend in Atlantic City. Put him in there with somebody who may not win, but who's just durable, ultra tough to knock out. So Joey Spencer, he fights using a Michigan front shoulder lead like Vernon Paris or Floyd Mayweather Jr. They keep the left hand low to protect the body, and then they throw the jab or the hook off of it. He uses that style early on or when he wants to turn to defense later in the fight. Check him out. In the co-feature, and here we go with the nonsense again. Chris Colbert and Jezreel Corrales fighting for something called the Interim World Boxing Association, that's WBA, World Super Featherweight or Junior Lightweight belt. Colbert is a Brooklyn kid. He's lightning quick southpaw. He dyes his hair different colors and calls himself Prime Time. He's 13-0, very flashy. I think he has about 4 or 5 knockouts. Great hand speed and footwork. So being a Brooklyn guy, fans will probably come to Philadelphia, which is slightly less than 2 hours away. Colbert has been in with Miguel Beltran Jr., Alberto Mercado, and Austin Dulé in a battle of undefeated prospects. Colbert is sharp. The question is, at age 23, is it too much too soon, or will he be ready? Check him out. He's flashy. Now, the guy he faces, Jezreel Corrales. Corrales is 23 wins, 3 losses. I thought he won his last fight, but it was on the Mayweather Promotions card with the Mayweather Promotions fighter, Ladarius Memphis Miller. as the opponent. I thought he beat Memphis, but the decision went to Miller by 1 point on Dave Moretti's card, who I won't comment about any further. We know Dave Moretti. Other than Miller, Corrales has been in there with Alberto Machado, Robinson Castellanos, and Takeshi Uchiyama. Corrales does not have a lot of knockouts, but he loves to mix it up, and it causes him to get knocked down, or he scores a knockdown. If he does that this fight, I believe Colbert will take him up on it and actually mix it up with him. I'll make a statement right here. This could be a fight that steals the show if the two guys fight the way they usually do. The potential is there for this fight to be sloppy also, as it's a southpaw versus an orthodox matchup. But I hope they fight their normal style, because if so, mark my words, this one could be wild, crazy, and fun. Take that to the bank. We'll see. The Julian Williams versus JEISON Rosario broadcast begins at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern live on Fox. Tickets can be purchased at www.liacourascenter.com/events. That's www.liacourascenter.com/events, or by calling 800-298-4200. We'll catch you on the next one.